Welcome back to the podcast. We're joined this week by Paul Kent, head coach of the Sandwell Steelers, a club very local to us here on Questionable NFL Show. Paul, thanks for your time and coming on. Would you like to kick off just by giving us a bit of background on yourself and how you got involved with the Steelers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. Obviously, my name's Paul. I'm the head coach of the Sandwell Steelers, which is based near you. I've actually only been head coach for 3 or 4 months. So I've not actually met any of the players physically due to lockdown. So the position came available back in November. I got appointed to the role. I was previously coaching in Hereford, where I live. And yeah, there's kind of not too much more to say about how I got involved, really, than that.
Have you always had an interest in the sport, or is it more recent? Or
Oh no, I've been following the sport since the 1980s. So I've kind of followed it when it was on Channel 4 back in the day, when it was my first Super Bowl was watching on a black and white TV at midnight when I was supposed to be in bed, watching the Chicago Bears beat the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 20. I got involved in it then because my brother was interested in the sport. He was a bit older than me, and you always want to do things your older brother was interested in. So I got into watching it that way, and just picked a team with the colours I like, which is red and gold. So I'm a 49ers fan. So I apologise for that for people that are not too pleased to hear that. But yeah, and I think just really from then, when it went off the TV, I, like a lot of people in this country, probably didn't follow it so much because it was the only thing you could see was newspaper reports. There was no internet really, so it kind of fell out of the vision of the UK public really, until obviously Sky took over and things, and the internet came around, and it's here to stay now. And probably for the last 11 years, I've been heavily involved in it.
So before it went off, obviously sort of off UK radar, when it left Channel 5, in what were you involved in any way, or was it literally just as a fan, the interest at that point, or did you play at all at that point or anything?
Do you know what? It was really as a fan. I lived in a small town in Wiltshire, so there was a guy that was actually an American there, and he decided to start up a team, and it's just like a youth team, and there was 20, 30 people came along. It didn't last very long, and I think I started being off as a running back, and I happened to throw the coach the ball once, and he said, "Do that again." So I did it again, and he said, "You're quarterback." And that's how kind of like that was the initiation into trials. Really, was it lasted sort of for several months. I don't think there was anything they could really build on. There was no leagues as such really around at the time, so it lasted a few months. It was good fun to do, and yeah, after that it was mainly watching with friends and finding friends at school that also were into it. It's kind of 4 or 5 of us, I think, in the end that really got into it. Going around other friends' houses and watching the Super Bowl late at night, and being able to stay up late, and it was all good fun.
So obviously, this is an interesting dynamic to consider, because it's obviously today, and a lot of fans, even people who've got interested in the sport in the last 10 or 20 years with the internet, and I think with phones and apps today, we're absolutely inundated and spoilt with the information we're able to access instantly from billions of different media sources. But obviously for you or your mates when you were younger, I imagine that was, how exactly was it you were able to do that? Because it's not like you could watch the game, on like say Game Pass or things like that. So you mentioned, where did you get your sources and your fix from?
It was Channel 4 used to have a program on. I think it was probably on I can't remember. It was one on like a Tuesday night, presented by Mick Luckhurst, who was a kicker. It was a British guy, but I think it's the first British player in NFL. He was a kicker for the Atlanta Falcons, once retired. He presented the show on Channel 4, so it was like a highlight show, and he was hoping your team was on it. Other than that, it was watching the Super Bowl, which was live. Other than that, it was waiting until Tuesday morning to see the newspaper results, because that's the newspapers would print results somewhere in the bottom of the sports pages and see how your team got on.
I suppose
there was nothing. Everybody now is a coach. Everybody now is an expert on the draft. Everybody now knows all there is to know. So it's completely different now than it was back then.
I suppose that's that was the thing that brought us to save. Because when was it obviously you mentioned you were playing quarterback. When did you start? Were you able to play sort of consistently? At what sort of period of time was that when you were able to play a little bit more and the game maybe started to grow a little bit more in this country?
That was even some 10, 11 years ago. And I didn't really start playing until I was kind of mid-30s because it just family life and other things happened. And I met a friend who said, "Oh, did you know the 49ers are playing in London in one of the early international games?" So I didn't. I go and watch them, and I used to play five-a-side football with him. We decided to go and watch it, and we were having a sort of a throw around in the car park at 2:00 in the morning the night beforehand, with a guy that had played sort of college football in America, and he said, "You could play now. You're not too old." So I found the local team, which was Swindon Storm, then, and just kind of went along and initially kind of a bit of coaching and a bit of playing, and yeah, for the last 10, 11 years, it's been great. It's so good to have the sport back represented properly because it's just the best sport in the world, isn't it? That's why we're all here.
It is.
And
how does?
Go on, sorry, Josh. No, Josh, you go ahead.
I was just curious how it works over here as far as like Sandwell Steelers. How many are in the division? What's the seasons like? Stuff like that.
Assuming taken away from what's the situation at the moment with COVID, of course, I'm trying not to look at you, Josh, because I can see a Dallas Cowboys star in the background. That's putting me off. So, the way the British League works, it's come a long way in the last few years, and it's still a long way to go. But the Sandwell Steelers, we are in the there's two Premier divisions, Premier North and Premier South, of which we're in the Premier North, newly promoted the last season that was before I was there. So it's kind of the top level in the country. But below that, there is Division 1, which is split into North, South, East and West. And there's sort of teams in that. And then there's Division 2 as well. So there's probably, I'm guessing you have that sort of like 40 odd teams around the country that are playing competitive league football. But yeah, somewhere we are. So it's really good to have an opportunity to be part of a club that's just wanting to be the best in the country. And it's a challenge that you can't ignore, really. So it's just a great setup. It's sort of as professional as it can be in an amateur sport, which is always a difficult sort of line to cross, really, because people are in it for fun, but they want to win at the same time.
Yeah.
It's almost strange that I feel like until obviously we've had you on and started looking into it, all of this is going on, like you said, 40 teams playing competitively. You almost don't realise how much of the sport is going on within the country and like you said, an amateur level, but obviously that's the top level. I find it strange how under the radar it goes.
Yeah, I think because it is quite new, and I think it's one of those sports that you don't necessarily go, I can just go along and play that, when actually you can. You think it's a really specialised sport, and it does take a lot more commitment to really get into and be successful at than I think. You look at the wealth of soccer clubs that around the country. You can just turn up to anyone and go, yeah, I play left back or centre forward, and you can go and join a team and you can just play. Whereas American football, it's not quite like that. You have to sort of turn up to training week in, week out to learn the sport, to learn the nuances and the techniques of each position, find the position that you want to play. So but it is a case of you can just turn up and play. Whichever club it is in the country, whichever locality you are. I think every team, we certainly do, is you come along 3 free sessions just to see if you like it. Me personally, as a coach, I like to put people in the kit and helmet because that's what they want to do. It's one of the attractions is, be able to wear all the kind of protective gear and get into contact and see if they like it. And if you like it, then you sign up and you come along and you play, and we encourage you and teach you how to play the rest of the game.
And I think that's when we initially spoke on the phone. That was one of the things that I'd not really realised, and something I fed back to the lads as well. Is it our general impression, and maybe this is because I spoke, linking to Aaron's point about, we don't know that there is a grassroots and an amateur, presence, and quite a big presence of American football teams in this country, but we're not so far aware of it. And as a result of that, I wonder if that feeds into our sort of thinking that, it's not something I can, you know, oh, I really like the game. I can maybe play a little, you know, we've played little 2-on-2 games in, you know, the park and stuff, but, you know, we've never had this opportunity to go and play it. And it's like, oh, I don't have that opportunity. Whereas obviously when I spoke to you previously, and obviously what you're just saying there, the opportunity is there. Yeah, you've got an interest. We're the club here. We've got the players, the equipment, and the coaches. Come on down, and you know you can just sort of contact us, turn up and try out. It's not an elitist, or you've not got to have the 100% understanding from the off of the sport to be able to get involved.
Absolutely not. All you need is a pair of football boots and a gum shield. The club provide the rest of that as a kind of a hiring opportunity as the kit to get involved and try it out. If you stay with the sport, yes, you know, like any sport, you want your own gear, you know, the helmets and stuff that fit you perfectly and the pads. But it's literally just turn up. Don't need to know anything about the sport. The last team I was coach of, we were a new team, and 85% of the players had never played before. But by the end of the season, we won 5 out of the 6 games we played, because it takes commitment, and people amazingly just realise not how easy it is, but how easy it is to get involved. And it's such a welcoming sport because of the team ethic. It's one of the reasons why I love it so much, because it really, truly is a team sport. Every single player has a role and responsibility on every single play. So there's no kind of hiding place. You'll easily get found out. So you've got to put in and have each other's backs. And it's just, as I say, it's just the reason why I love it so much, and why people, when they come, they find they love it. And people come. We've had it when people are new to the area and they find, you know, I don't know what to want their context, but I know there's an American football team, and they've found out and come along, and it's a way to introduce yourself to the local community, get involved in social aspects as well. And many people have done that, and it's actually helped them in difficult situations, because a real good sort of team ethic, and everyone looks after it. It is a family. It really is a family.
I suppose that's the cool thing, because it's obviously there's so many players on a team. You know, you're probably going to find that obviously, if you've got an interest in American football, that's going to help you find sort of like-minded individuals from the start. But the fact that there's so many people there, it's almost going to be like a massive family, or almost like a little mini, tiny little village of people at a practice session. I can imagine if you've got everyone there, you're gonna
It is, yeah. You've got sort of 40, 50 people in the team, in the squad. It's one of those, if you put 40, 50 people in a room together, they're not always necessarily going to get on, because they're very different personalities, but they've got one common theme, and that's they love American football. Like anything, if you like Dungeons and Dragons or something, if you're with other people like Dungeons and Dragons, it'd be from different kinds of lifestyles, but you've got that one thing in common, and that kind of transcends everything else. It doesn't matter whether you know, your political views, your religious views, or your ethnicity, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's football that's first and foremost, and yeah, that's sorry, excuse me. Yeah, that's why it's just such a welcoming and great sport, and also you get the opportunity to smack the living daylights of other people legally and in the right way, which a lot of people love. And looking at from all of you, from what I've seen, having said how easy it is to get into the sport, and looking at your ages, I don't see there's any reason why any one of you wouldn't come along and want to give it a try.
Especially some of us.
That's good news for you, Jay. I was waiting for you there.
Jay thinks he's a quarterback.
I mentioned it on the last podcast. We had a little 2v2 twice. I think we've done it. Me and Ross against Aaron and Josh, just down the park, and both times, one of them in particular, I think we were two touchdowns down, was it?
Yeah, it was slightly embarrassing. It was a bit of a demolition job,
Picked
to be
them
honest.
off. It was unbelievable. So I reckon there's life in the old dog yet. But I did, I said this last week as well. I don't know if Birmingham Bulldogs are still about, are they? Because I don't know what division they play, but this was about 10 years ago. I sent them an email after watching my first Super Bowl. I was very, very casual fan back then. I think I'd literally just watched the Super Bowl, never seen a game before. I thought, yeah, I'll have a go at that. Sent them an email message thinking, I've got a chance here. And then I didn't hear anything back. And then that was it. My American football career, I thought, was over. But maybe there's still...
You got a chance, you got no excuse.
At least as like a punter or something like that.
Just so you don't get hit.
It could. That's an idea for not a podcast as such, but maybe a video we could all go down and try out, and you could grade
No,
us for who's the best.
I reckon. we just filmed-
Absolutely.
I think we just filmed Jay getting hit by the biggest blokes. And,
Yeah.
but that's again, this is another interesting thing that we did speak about was the inclusivity of the sport. Is that there are so many different sizes, shapes, and body sizes, but everyone can find a position, and different skill sets. It's so diverse, isn't it? And what was interesting, I remember when we were talking, is you said that sometimes you would almost have a preconceived notion of this person. You'd see the new player walking towards you from the car park and be thinking, brilliant, this guy's going to be my lineman or this or that. And it didn't quite work out like that. Do you want to go into a bit that further?
Yeah, I think it's with the sport. It's typically in most sports, apart from rugby, I suppose. If you're a, for want of a better word, a big lad, you think I can't get involved in the sport stuff. But it's you're most welcome at American football because you tend to get a lot of guys that want to come and play wide receiver. Funny enough, not many that want to play quarterback. You get a few initially, perhaps, but you get sort of wide receivers and cornerbacks and DBs and linebackers and running backs and kind of the ball carrier positions. But you tend to look at typically it's like linemen, both sides of the ball tend to be a bit short in numbers, and then when you see kind of guys just turning up at the first training session, you see a 6'6" guy that's 250 pounds. You get really excited because you think, yes, this is you're going to be part of this team whether you like it or not because we need you. But it's not necessarily all about that either, because linemen, if you've got the strength and the technique and the ability to work, you don't necessarily need to be that big. It's great if you're really big, but unless you've got the power to back it up, then you're better off being a bit smaller and a bit nimbler on your feet and a bit better with the technique, and you can manage just as well. But going back to that point of being any size, you can have somebody that would struggle necessarily to get on. This was used before by an old colleague of mine. Would struggle to get on fairground rides and meet the height restrictions on fairground rides, but they can go and play wide receiver and DB, etc., and cornerback. But literally any size you be, there's a position for you. Whether you want to run with the ball, whether you want to hit, you can be the skill player. I don't like the word skill player because linemen are skill players as well. I prefer the kind of the ball carriers and non-ball carriers. But you can just be any size. You're never too big and you're never too small. It's the long and short of that.
I think we've commented on it before on one of the podcasts. I don't know if was it Boston Scott, who's 5'2", I think it was. And when you see him standing up against someone like Lane Johnson or even Carson Wentz, who's I think he's like 6'3", the size difference is just unbelievable. So, but he's someone who I think is a great player who can get through. I imagine Miles Sanders as well. He's probably not number 5'6", probably. It's quite interesting to see the different shapes and sizes of everyone, especially I'm just purely picking Eagles players here, but again, like Jake Elliott, he's got such a.
That's why I didn't recognise anyone.
Yeah, I think it is quite interesting.
Squad.
I remember Peter Crouch and Sean Wright Phillips that got subbed on together that once.
Oh,
that
was
height
great.
difference. Whereas you just see that all the time in the NFL. And I think it's something, or obviously any sort of level of the sport. I think it's quite interesting. Like Dan was saying, it's nice that I think you struggle really to find another sport that is that inclusive in terms of any background, faith, anything like that. It's definitely sort of a wholesome sport, I think, which is a lot different to football, I think.
It's like chess, lots of different pieces do their own individual thing, and it all comes together.
That's true.
The chess analogy is really good because when I've done kind of radio interviews and things before, it's like people, how do you describe the sport? And I always describe it as like violent or aggressive chess because that's part of it. I love being an offensive coordinator as well. Is the planning of it and the scheming and things, as well as being able to, use that physical aggression. When people find different aspects of the sport that they love and they cling on to, some of it, they do just want to be on the defensive line or linebacker and go through the line and flatten quarterbacks. Some like the challenges of the trench warfare of the line. Some just want to run around and be kind of like the glory and catch the big deep bombs. So you can do. You had an interesting conversation a couple of podcasts back about what the most important position on the field was, and somebody was, I think, emailed in and said, The kicker is the second or third most important position on the field. I don't know who was it said that.
That Mike, was it?
I can't remember. No, it was someone on Twitter. I want to say it was Fabian. I think it was Fabian.
I think it was Fabian.
Us.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
The point that they made was, oh well, the kicker gets all of those, X amount of points. And I remember in our initial phone conversation before the podcast, you'd brought this up as well, and so if you want to expand on that, because it hit, well, I don't say it hit a nerve with you, but you had quite an interesting point to make about it in terms of the most important position.
I think it's very difficult to narrow down the most important position, because let's take the kicker for example, because that was the position that was brought up at the time. Kicker's great and they can score lots of points a game, but if the offense don't move the ball anywhere, because the offensive line is awful and the quarterback's getting sacked all the time, there's no point in having a kicker, because he's never going to have a kick at goal, and he's not even going to kick off, because he's not going to score any points. There's no point in having him. I always say, at team meetings, I'm not into superstars, whatever level it is. You can be a great quarterback and throw at 50, 60-yard bombs, even at, British level. You can be a wide receiver and catch anything. But again, if your offensive line hasn't blocked for you and hasn't done the pass protection, there's no point in having that quarterback that can throw at 50 yards, because he's going to be on his ass because he's been sacked. So how do you say which is the most important position? And you can say that on defense as well, because if the defensive line aren't filling their gaps, then the linebackers can't do their job. Or if they've not done their job, you're putting more pressure on the DBs to make interceptions and break up passes. So I struggle to say which is the most important position. I think it's part of the game is every position is as important as another one.
Did you just upgrade the meeting, Aaron?
No, what's happened?
I think we all just got a notification that popped up.
The minutes clicked up. Sorry, continue.
Okay, sorry.
Carry on.
So it's very, very difficult to say which is the most important position. You could argue there's more positions that are difficult to learn, and quarterback's one of those. And Jay was it. So you've nailed yourself on for quarterback.
2 out of 2 down the park, so I'm fairly confident.
That's a perfect example, and you've set yourself up really well there, actually, because being quarterback is probably 5%, maybe 10% is throwing the ball. It's and I'd say, Dan, during our phone conversation, the term game manager is used really derisory, as it's a bad thing as being a game manager, but it's actually the best thing you can be as a quarterback, whatever level.
It's a skill in itself, isn't it?
You need to be able to. Not only do you need to know what you're doing, you need to know what the other 10 guys are doing, certainly at British level as well, because you'll get in the huddle, you'll call a play, I write 33 lead on 1, and you'll get 4 guys sometimes looking at you going, where am I going now? What's my blocking scheme? So the quarterback has to then say in that split second huddle, that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. So you have to know all of the positions. So it's probably the most technical to learn, but it's not about, as I said, it's not about throwing the ball, it's about being able to manage that team. And from a quarterback point of view, and having played that position, driving the team down the field 60, 70 yards, even if it's all running plays, with the odd pass thrown in, that's way more satisfying once you've played that position than just throwing the deep ball for a pass. Anyone in a way can do that. It's actually the rest of the intricacies of the sport and knowing what happens and making reads and changing the play at the line of scrimmage. That's the thing that, being a 49ers fan, Alex Smith always got accused of being a game manager. Give me a game manager every day. I think he's great. So, Jay, if you want to throw the ball, you're out of luck, because you've got to do a lot of other things as well.
I forgot to mention. I was going to say another time, just to prove how good I am, perhaps, me and Ross also threw it at a post from about 30 yards away, and I beat him at that as well. So the caliber there's potential there, I think.
You haven't got the brain power, though.
I can't throw, man.
Not true. I have a number of GCSEs at grade C or above. No, C or below.
Well, I think it's once, hopefully.
B-Tech.
Yeah, hopefully with obviously the announcements yesterday, maybe come the summertime, and working towards your season, it's going to get a little bit easier, and we can go and do things that we've not been able to do for a while. I mean, obviously, with the season approaching, obviously I know things will change, or well, plans will have to be made with the new announcements and stuff. But what would you say is the biggest, again, coming in as your first season with the Steelers, but what would you say is your biggest challenge for the coming season? How are you going to, and how are you going to, a very, very unique set of circumstances, Paul?
It is a strange situation, strange time. If I can just, I'll give you all a question to think about while I answer the question. Is when I see you all down at training, we have got a recruitment group on Facebook as well, so I expect to see you all on there in the near future. Is if you did decide you wanted to play, what positions apart from quarterback that you think you'd be suited to and why? So I'll give that to you while you're asking about my difficult challenge. The main challenge is one of the most things I'm looking forward to is actually meeting all the players, because I've not met anyone. I've done a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of Facebook video meetings with certain players and coaches, and we've had to appoint some coaching staff. So I've now got a defensive coordinator on board. We've got some positional coaches. I think the challenge is when we go back, we could in theory go back on March the 29th to some kind of training. We're waiting for the announcements from our governing body, BAFA, as to what level of training we can do it. Maybe we're in groups of 6, so that then creates its own challenges of, we have to do positional training. We can't do sort of full scrimmage. We can't do playbook run-throughs. I've got a new offensive playbook that I've made. I know the defensive coordinator's got his new playbook as well. So we've got to, over the next few weeks, we're installing that via Zoom with all the players. So that's a challenge in itself. I've never done that before. We've done, obviously, team meetings in a room when you've got a big whiteboard or some videos and things like that. So there's so many different challenges. I think it's difficult to pick one. As far as the playing side, in a way, I'm not concerned about it, because I know the quality of the squad of players that we've got. We will hold our own in the Premier League and more. I think will surprise a lot of people. So the challenges, I suppose, for me is living up to that, because I'm ultra competitive. I want to win every single thing I do. If I meet you in a pub and want to play tiddlywinks, I'm going to win. I won't cheat, but I'm going to do everything I can to win. I'll be a gracious loser about it if I have to be, but I will do everything I can to win. So I guess another challenge would be the amount of time it takes from a coaching point of view. A lot of think, we'll just do this, we'll just do that. But I've probably spent, unfortunately have a normal day job, but I probably spend as much time doing football outside that 30, 40, 50 hours a week behind the scenes, certainly at the moment, with the new things that need to be done. So that's one of the challenges, fitting that in with being an amateur sport, with relationships with dogs to walk, and with fitting that in with everything else. And the missus thinking I'm having an affair because my phone's always pinging every 5 seconds with, who's that? So there's so many different messages going on. So there's lots of different challenges. But again, I'm not worried about the team, because I know the team in itself has got the quality and the ability to do well. So hopefully I've rambled on long enough for you to all have had an answer about what position would be best and why, not just because you can throw out 50 yards.
I like this, turning the tables on us. The interviewee becomes the interviewer. I like it. Who wants to start? Shall I start?
I think you should start, and you can pass it around the virtual table then.
I'd back myself, because I like to catch. I like to catch the ball, but I don't think I have the outright speed of a wide receiver. I'm no Tyreek Hill. I'm not the quickest. So I think I'd fancy myself as a tight end, because it's got a bit more, you can play in the block game, that kind of stuff. And I think I'm a safe pair of hands. So I'll go for a tight end.
Tight end as well, aren't you?
You what, sorry?
You're undefeated playing at tight end as well.
That's it.
In the 2v2s. 6
foot. Fancy myself in 1v1 matchups. So yeah, I think I'd go for that. What are we saying?
Carry on. Sorry.
I'll let you guys comment on that. I'll let you, because you know each other much better than I do. So
I would have said tight end. I think that's a great.
Tight end seems fair, I think.
Oh, lovely stuff. Yeah, too slow to be a wide receiver for sure. I'm not the quickest. Aaron, yourself?
I'd have to be. I think whilst I'm a big guy, but I'm not. I don't think I'm big enough to be on either of the lines. I'd just get flattened. I'd
back yourself, Aaron.
But I wouldn't back myself in that situation. But
technique.
I think I'd want to be. I'd say running back, but not your sort of I'm talking third and goal, 3rd and 2 sort of
Lynch.
situation. Just
Very,
yeah,
a very poor man's Derek Henry.
yeah, just power only. But I do also have glass ankles, so I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure any position would suit me.
Paul's sitting
You're
there.
not selling it. You're not selling it really well there, Aaron. To be honest.
Sitting there thinking, "Fucking hell, we need to get this guy down the stairs."
He's selling himself.
Come on, Josh. Come on, Josh. What have you got? You want to be the guy who mixes the Gatorade, don't you?
I think wide receiver. I don't really have the pace for it, but you can see it when I catch. Not leaving these sturdy hands. But there was a few one-handed catches down the park. One of them hit off my foot as I landed. I caught it.
Out of bounds.
I can confirm that was one of the most outrageous things I've ever seen, but it was out of bounds, unfortunately.
Yeah, well,
And you lost.
Yeah, it was a small pitch, but yeah. So I'm going to go wide receiver personally. Just get a bit more pace behind me. I think wide receiver.
Jay, are you sticking with quarterback?
Outside of quarterback, I'll go backup QB or kicker. I think anywhere to get all the glory.
I like that you admit that you want glory. At least you're honest about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Oh god.
Dan?
I think I'd be the guy who stands and keeps the coach in the area. I think I had a conversation about this a while back, or I tried to think. And Ross has already said, I was thinking in terms of body size and blocking and stuff. I was thinking tight end, but then I thought maybe as a linebacker, maybe more of an inside linebacker in terms of stopping the run, rather than. I don't think I have the size, speed, or technique at the moment to be able to be like an outside linebacker, but I think I could maybe do a job at middle linebacker.
The bit I like about that most is at the moment, which means you're planning to come down and learn the skill, so you can actually have.
I think we potentially need to try and test ourselves here, Paul, and especially obviously with Jay effectively going to be making the draft in 2022 by the sounds of
Eventually. if there were scouts down Hayden Hill, if there were scouts down there, honestly, that throw to Josh when we mixed the teams up, I know it hit off your face, but that was how many yards run.
You believe what you're saying, which is what
first snap of the game.
It
was unbelievable. I mean, we lost.
It was good. It was the full pitch pretty much.
Yeah, that was an exhibition game though, so it's not on the official record. It doesn't count as a loss, does it? But we mixed the teams up. But it was waff. It was a dime.
If you did make the draft, Jay, you certainly wouldn't need an agent. You can talk yourself up, so you'd sell yourself.
I would have wanted them taking a cut of my commission as well.
I think going back to obviously talking about the amount of hours and time obviously that you're having to put into having a second full-time job, effectively, Paul. But can you tell us a little bit more about? Obviously, I know you mentioned to me that, and it came up in our conversation about what's the most important position, and when you said you were playing quarterback, you saw the most important position to you was your having a good line, because you had from experience knew what it was like not having a good line and ended up on your arse a lot of the time. Which is then obviously, a running back will then say, oh, what's important for them would be maybe the guards in terms of moving people and be able to run through. And, we've got that debate going on. But do you want to tell us how you sort of transitioned in terms of going from your playing into coaching, and then how you then sort of developed yourself as a coach? Because I know we spoke about the different qualifications that there are actually available, and maybe people listening who might be interested in playing the sport or might be interested in coaching. Can you talk us through a little bit of the pathway there and your own experiences in that?
Yeah, I think certainly from the coaching point of view, I got involved initially thinking I was 35, so I was thinking I'm probably going to be a coach, so I just want to go along and help out, really. But just going, what do you need? Literally going, I'll put the cones out, whatever drills and things, and do that. But to be a coach, then there's there are qualifications like there are with FA, the levels of coaching. So you can do level 1, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 1 it has progressed somewhat than when I did it, and it's a bit derisory now to say, but I think it's fair to say because it's gone, is the level one used to be turn up, do a drill with a couple of fellow coaches, and make sure you look for the pitch for any needles and dog shit that might be on the pitch. And there you are, health and safety qualified, you're a level one coach. It was really a health and safety qualification. But now it's progressed so much to be a positional coach. Level two coaching, you can do it. It's a weekend course, and it's much more in depth. It's a really good course, and it does teach you to be a coach. And I learned so much from that, from thinking, yeah, I can be a coach, and you tell people to do this and they do it. But you've got guys that, I'm digressing a bit, you've got guys that, and we touched on this as well, as maybe kind of overlapping, that as a coach at this level, you've got guys that may be in more higher powered jobs than you, earning a lot more money than you, got families. They haven't come along because they're trying to make a career out of this. They've come along because they want to enjoy it. And it's a sport and they enjoy the sport. So you've got to marry up trying to get people to learn and want to win and be successful, but also not treat them like shit because they're your peers in everyday life. So it's a completely different scenario to being a high school coach in America or a college coach, when you can just drag people out if you want to, or just, tell them to get lost because you don't need them, because you do need those players, because you need those players on the squad. Again, I'm digressing a little bit from your initial question. I think that
you're saying it was a long, being a coach, especially in this country, you were saying it's a long way from Last Chance U and certain characters on there, which people might think, oh yeah, that's what it's all about. Whereas, yeah, you've not got the opportunity that people are trying to play for scholarships and get into into college football or the NFL. You're there with people who are, assume paying subs because they're, wanting to play that sport on the weekend as as their hobby, and within that you're then going to have different people, of some people who just do it and are interested in the social sides, and yeah, I like doing playing the a few snaps, few downs, whatever. And on the other side of that, you'll have the people who want to play every single ball and win every match and are ultra competitive, and that's their people are in sports for different reasons. So that must come with its own challenges for you, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've got to try and embrace every single person of those and treat them as all individuals. To say there's guys I know that are on the team that will be working out 5-6 days a week when they're not, and they have been doing all through the lockdown. And then you get on the training field and they're ultra competitive, and they don't understand why other people are making mistakes, because they want to play the sport and they go home and they look at YouTube, they look at their own specific position, they look at their own, as everyone can do now, they can look at their own specific positions and learn different things and take that to training and even impart that to other people. And as you say, there are guys that just want to come along and they use it for their Facebook profile. They have a picture on game day with their kit and a helmet on, and they turn up, 1 week before game day, because they think, if I've turned up week before game day, I'm going to get on the field and I'm going to play. You're not really. But at our level, you kind of need those players, because you have to have a minimum of 35 players on each squad. So you have to look after those players and keep them involved. Some of those players will fall in love with the game and then turn into those guys that want to get better and keep getting better. But you'll always get the guys that just kind of want to be a part of it. Everybody has their value to the team. So you've got to manage those. Tell the guys that are ultra competitive that why don't you have a word with those guys and explain what your kind of theory is and why you're doing it, and that might rub off on them a little bit, and vice versa. And at the end of the day, as long as they can all go upstairs and have a beer in the bar at the end of the day and be a team, and they understand each other and they communicate, that's one of the things that you can get through. That is the communication within the team, and again, not having those superstars.
Until Jay comes along.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got him pegged already. Don't worry.
Biggest arm in the West Midlands,
I
right?
don't know if I'm making this up, because I'm probably going to get sued by William Shakespeare's estate for something I made up before. And I'm an old karate teacher, which I probably shouldn't say on the podcast. But is it the Tipton Stadium that you guys play at? I'm sure
Yes.
I read that.
Yeah,
before.
it is.
Yeah. So how does that work in terms of like the markings on the pitch? 'Cause I know Tipton. Is it Tipton Sports? I can't remember what their name is.
Academy. TSA, Tipton Sports Academy.
So how does that work in terms of like the markings on the pitch? So I imagine the goalposts and whatnot would be relatively easy to change, but in terms of the markings, how does that work? It might be a boring question, but it's something I'm very interested in.
No, it varies from club to club. Some people have groundsmen that will do it. Sometimes it is guys going out on if the game day's on a Sunday, going out on a Saturday, using the groundsman's kit and marking the pitch. It tends to be typically a 90-yard pitch that we would use, because they tend to be more often not rugby pitches.
Yeah.
And think, a rugby pitch is 100 yards, but you've got rugby is really weird. And somebody questioned me once about, why do you have the posts behind the try line? I was like, well, why would you have the posts where you're trying to get to? I don't understand that, to be honest. So why would you want to have a post where you've got to get to and run into those posts?
Yeah, it's in the way, isn't it? It's in the way.
Never really thought of that.
Yeah, so they hadn't thought of it either. So they could kind of shut them up a little bit, to be fair. But that's why it's a 90-yard pitch, because you've got to bring the end zone forward. You can't sort of pick up the rugby posts and move them back.
Yeah. So
it tends to be like a 40. The halfway line is the 45-yard line effectively, and then it goes back that way. But it's it can take a good few hours to mark the pitch. I actually quite enjoy it, because I'm getting a bit sad and like the geeky kind of thing. So I enjoy doing things like that and doing it nicely and making it look nice, because again, it's all about presentation for the sport and for people to watch, which we've got a long way to go in this country to get it better and make it as a spectacle for people to come and watch.
That is what I was going to ask, actually. At present, obviously lockdown excluded, but like last few years and that, how is it, and how sort of do you get much attendance? Do you get people coming, or does it tend to be people involved with the club who will come and watch it as a spectator sport? Because until apart from like the London games and stuff like that, this is, I suppose, the only sort of thing that you could go and actually see live if you're in the UK.
Yeah, I think there is. It's not greatly attended, and it does tend to be mainly sort of people that are involved with the team and people in the area that and friends and family. But the more that spreads, and other teams have slightly bigger followings, and Sandwell do actually more than others. And it helps if you've got like a stadium to make it worthwhile coming. It feels like a spectator sport rather than just like standing on the sidelines. And I know there is, I think it's the UKFL. I think they're making plans in sort of 3 or 4 years to make kind of like a 10-team semi-professional league where it's in proper stadia, it's got sponsorship, and it's got TV coverage. Whereas, because I've actually went to watch the Budweiser Bowl, I think it was in apologies for going back in black and white terms, I think it was 1989. It was held at Loftus Road, QPR Stadium. It was the London Ravens against probably another London team. And there was like 20,000 people there. Back in the 80s when Budweiser sponsored it, there was a lot of money in the sport, and people paid to go and watch even the local games. But ever since kind of restarted again, that's not been the case. There's not been money behind it. So it's a case of looking for more money and more sponsorships and making it more of a deal. Like, one thing I always like about America is they do sports properly, whether you like the sport or not. They do the whole spectacle of sport much better than anywhere else in the world.
I always think as well on that point is, especially like with the NFL and things like that, it's a lot more family friendly. I mean, if we compare to, we have to cast our minds back to pre-pandemic times, but when I think about, I can't remember the last, live sporting match I went to, but going back to before and going to football matches, I wouldn't necessarily be very comfortable in terms of, say, taking, a young lad of 7 or 8 years old to watch, say, a Premier League football match because of the amount of tribalism and anger and swearing and all sorts that are going to go on and they're going to hear. Whereas American football, it seems to be a little bit more accessible in that. And then when we then look at how the NFL presents itself, and I've had, for example, when I've watched games with my dad, he's just said, the presentation of this is fantastic. And obviously, their investment in terms of making it accessible for people, halftime entertainments like at the Super Bowl and things like that's obviously now a big deal. And even, Nickelodeon doing a kids themed games, they put a heck of a lot of effort, which a lot of other sports could learn from.
Yeah. Was there actually a question in that, or was it just like a comment that he's?
Agreeing with you there, but I think, yeah, the presentation of it, and I mean, hopefully, I would like, and maybe it's something that needs to be looked at more nationally, because when I started looking at it and getting interested in the sport, I mean, I think the first Super Bowl I watched, I think, was when Green Bay won it in a decade or so ago. But I was not aware at all that there was anyone in this country playing American football, that there was even a grassroots existence. And I didn't realize that until I had a school friend who I saw his profile picture changed on Facebook, and he had all the kit on. And I was like, what's going on there? Is he living in America or something? And then I think he was actually playing for the Steelers. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was at that point, it only took me the fact that I was friends with someone on Facebook, an old school friend, to realize that it was even going on in this country. And that was probably 4 or 5 years after I'd even watched my first, Super Bowl. So I think there's potentially something that, I don't know what can be done. And obviously, in trying to promote this and get it out to more people. But I mean, I know, speaking on behalf of us five, and I know I've got friends who are interested in the game as well, is, when we're able to, and when times are normal again, if someone said to me, oh, I don't know, let's say Aaron or whatever said, hey, do you fancy going and watching, grassroots American football and, having a drink and watching it, I'd absolutely jump at the opportunity. And I think, I'd hope that there's some sort of drive or push. I mean, I don't know what the solution is there. I don't know if you have any ideas what could potentially attract more people as spectators, without having necessarily, it's someone's girlfriend or boyfriend who's going to support them, or a family member. How is it we can actually grow this sport and make people aware?
I think it's two kind of pronged, really. Is and I go back to the 80s side. Is the reason that Budweiser was sponsoring it is because they were paying American players to come over and play. So there was high quality players playing in British League, and you were watching a high level at the top level of Britain and doing that. But I think at the moment it's almost, you've got to get people involved. The more people that play the sport, the more you're going to find the quality players. So the more you promote the sport from a playing point of view, the higher the level is. So the more you want to promote it. So it's kind of a catch-22 at the moment. It's almost as if we as a sport don't want to promote it too much because we don't think the quality is great, but it is and has the potential to be. So it's getting the bowl games are now streamed on. I think BBC actually streamed the Brit Bowl, the Warriors and the Tamworth Phoenix last year. I think it just takes someone to take for a bit of balls and go, yeah, this is worth watching. And it is, and the quality's come up so much in a few years. And I think a few years go by, we'll have a bit, the quality. It's patience, I think, is a little bit, and people with passion to push the sport. And I know that the chief executive of BAFA now is really keen to push the professionalism of the sport. So I think it's been very much an amateur focused sport. It's an amateur sport for amateur people, for want of a legal local gentleman. But it's I think if you act in a professional way, you attract professional people in a professional manner, and that then you take it a bit more seriously. And yes, it should be fun, but actually, if you want the sport to be successful, and we are behind the rest of Europe. Germany has a semi-pro league and it's paid league. Russia, Finland, Sweden, they're all kind of way ahead in terms of their progression of the sport because they've taken it seriously again and invested right from the start. There's been money from whether it be sponsorship or government to do that, and it takes someone with balls to push it, like Barry Hearn did with snooker or with darts and things. Is get it on. How many people would have thought thousands of people would be spending a fortune going and watch the darts and watch it on telly? But it's a couple of guys down the pub throwing, metal at a board. But people pay for it. If you've got the right person behind it to push it, you can do it.
Yes, I think there's almost a bit of a stigma around American football in Britain, don't you think? That it's too complicated. It's it's not very British. It's quite American. But I do think, like you say, it just takes that one person with a bit of backing, bit of passion about the sport, just to kind of kick it on a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I get so wound up in the middle of summer. I live in Hereford, and I walk around sort of like around the race course in Hereford. In the middle of it, there's which is where the Hereford Stampede actually played. But there's like 5 football pitches, Astro pitches, and I get so wound up in the middle of the summer when football season's on. All that's going on is soccer, and I say soccer just to wind soccer fans up because it winds them up because we play football. But I think, well, why is there not like a youth, and it is growing in the school games to be involved and have flag football involved in that and promote the sport. It's a nice sport. People see it as a violent, or it's just people hitting each other, but it's not. It's so much more than that. It's the cleverest sport there is, as well. So yeah, I can sort of ramble about it, but yeah, it winds me up to say there's soccer around everywhere. It's like, why? It's not the soccer season. Why is there not? There's not even cricket going on in the middle of summer. There's still soccer going on. We're so obsessed with soccer in this country, and I think that's part of the problem. Is any sport getting a foothold into that, and, a few percentage you can take away from that would be great.
I think Aaron should promote it.
You what?
Aaron's just sold his house. It's nearly gone through, so he'll have a bit of cash. I think he should get behind a couple of teams, set a streaming service up, and then we'll tailgate it.
And I love the optimism. I don't think
in the car park.
It's not that much money that I feel like I could set up a American football promotion.
I do think though, even if like say the BBC, like you say, if they were sort of, I mean, I'm not being funny, but it can't, it can't be that expensive to go in and be like, okay, let's broadcast some, set amount of games, whatever, even if it was just on the BBC Sport website. Because if you put it on, say if it was on a weekend or whatever, and people aren't really doing anything, say if it's during the summer and the football's not on, or there's no other sport people are watching, if you just put that on the BBC website, you'd find people would switch it on and go, oh, what's going on here?
Exactly, and then they're exposed to it then, aren't they? And then the more people that get exposed to it,
they broadcast the bowls, so
yeah, they did, and it goes both ways. As people could watch it and go, that's not very good, I could do better than that, and go down and play it because they can do better, or they could go, that's really good, I didn't realize it was that good, I want to be a part of that. So it can work from both ways. And say because BBC did cover on their website the bowl game this year, but as you say, just put it on websites, just have it somewhere, and just a bit of backing and for people to be able to make it more visual, because I think we're a little bit embarrassed about it because it's not a professional sport. So how can we have it on TV?
But then it's like, but without pushing it, we're constantly going to feel embarrassed about it until it's it's backed and it's pushed, and it's because only at that point is it able to then going to be able to grow and become semi-professional or professional or whatever from that in this country.
Yeah. You need somebody that say one. We go back to the question how I got involved. I think I kind of skipped it in a way initially. Is when I went to Swindon, the head coach there, and I still talk to him now, and just the passion of the guy is just like there's nothing he doesn't know about football, and he's the reason that I fell in love with it as well, because that's what he was doing. It's like, that's just amazing. How can you why do you love the sport so much? It kind of makes you want to watch it. And even as this was at Swindon Storm, my first team, and even during the associate games that weren't even league games, he was arranging for the local American muscle car group to have a couple of muscle cars there, to have American barbecue there, just to make it an event, because it goes on for even in this country we don't obviously have ad breaks, but it's like 2 hours worth of football, 2.5 hours worth. So if you can make it more an event, have kids bouncy castles around, make it an event, make it something worth going along. The kids can occupy themselves while you're, fulfilling your fix of American football in this country and learning about it and make an event of it. I think that there's a certain way to go that from local level that would help.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because it's such a spectacle over there, isn't it, with everything they've got going on, like I say, with the tailgating. Like, if I could go somewhere and get barbecue food, a beer, and then go watch American football for a relatively cheap price compared to, say, like a Premier League game, which is probably like 50 quid now, then I think that's something that's definitely appealing. But I suppose it is, like you say, having the money to get that in place, because I imagine it's quite expensive to hire people to do that, and then you need the people there to make it worthwhile. So like you say, I think it is the case for someone to invest in it like Aaron, and then you can get it done. Or Aaron, convert your van, get a barbecue on it, start selling it in the car park, get more people in.
Very
Is it-
optimistic, Joe.
It is interesting you make that point though, Joe, because like you say, is if I ask this question out openly, but even not necessarily with American football, but if there was a Sunday league match or a game of cricket or something on, and I found out, they've got a bar, they're doing, I don't know, some really good barbecue food, and there's this and that. If I was thinking, I've got nothing else to do on a Saturday, I'd go to
An event, isn't it then?
I'd go and do that and support it, and then obviously, with that, it's coming and growing. But I suppose it's.
Sorry, just interrupting. One of the things that I tried to fight with when I was at the Stampede was they used to play in the racecourse in Hereford, and there's rugby pitches. There's a rugby team there, which is obviously where the Stampede were based. But we had to postpone one of our games this coming year because they had the truck fest going on, and they have basically 400 trucks coming from around the country, from around the world, coming in. They all pile in and parking around the race course. They have barbecues, they have parties, they have all night and doing this, and I said, one of our games was supposed to be in the middle of that. And the reason we couldn't play is because the truckers were using the changing rooms as part of their shower-in facilities and things, which I understand, that's great. But it's like, what great opportunity to showcase the sport, because even if you're not interested in American football, if you go along to a game, and I remember seeing one in Bristol, I was just walking along one day, just the noise of the impact of the sport makes you turn your head and go, what on earth's going on there? I'm going to have a look at that. And just, that would be great to have things like that, just to make it a focus of an event or alongside an event. People have tug of war events and things like that. Just have that as part of another event and make it a real event. I think it'd make a huge difference.
That seems like a wasted opportunity, really, that it wasn't done.
Yeah, I understand why. It's because the facility, they were making money from the truckers, and that was you. But we didn't have the changing rooms. But just from a selfish point of view, there was thousands of people there that would probably have, and there was bars there was hot dog stands, there was barbecues, and there was all kinds of things that would have been. There could have been 1,000 people watching this game of American football, and could have spread. Just knowledge and understanding that, it goes on in this country. It does.
And maybe this is something to take forward, and hopefully by the summer, we're going to have an ability to do it again. And I don't know, people will be itching to get out and go and support events like this. I don't know. We'll have to see how it changes. I mean, when does your season run in this country at the moment, Paul? What's the run time?
If we take out the COVID factor, just temporarily, a normal season would, the league games start pretty much the first week in April and go on to the end of August. Depending on how many teams are in your league, it's normally an 8 or 10 game season during that period. Then you've got playoffs in early September, playoffs in the bowl. So we would normally look to start in early January as rookie sessions for new guys, and then towards the end of January, February, start building with the veterans coming back, rebuilding and being ready for the season in April.
Again, it's a perfect placement there, because it's when people are going, like at the moment where we're going, well, Super Bowl's just finished, I've got to wait how long until I can see some football again. It's going to say, well, hang on, there is football going on all up and down the country. Obviously, for us being local, Sandwell Steelers are there. Obviously, there are other teams around the country, and we urge people to to look and when the opportunity to be able to safely go and support and get involved or watch that, it's there. And I mean, it's not long since Super Bowl. I'm itching to see some football again, and can't wait, to get down and be able to support that.
Yeah, I think Jay mentioned it. I think the Birmingham Bulls, I think he was talking about, he emailed them 10 years ago and didn't hear back. In a way, regarding the fact that they missed you, Jay, is kind of not necessarily the point, but I understand it. But the remiss of that of not getting back in contact with you, because whatever team I've been involved with, and again I got that from my first head coach, was recruitment. Even if you're mid-season, you've got 70 players on your roster, or paid up members of your club, you're always recruiting, because you should always have your profile out there going, because you never know who you're going to miss, who that one player that is going to help, or just So to not respond to someone saying, I want to play American football, it's just is a travesty to me. It's like, we have a recruitment group of which we've got about 70, 80 members now that aren't actually necessarily members of the full squad. Everyone, and there's been 2 this evening that I haven't responded to, always make the effort to go, great to see you, thanks very much, yeah, looking forward to seeing it. Even it's just as simple as that, because it should be welcoming, and it should be, everybody should be made to feel that they can come and play the sport. And if you're not doing that, I think that's a real shame.
I like the idea that someone might be listening to this and potentially have had it in their head that they wanted to, and thought all of these things we've discussed today of almost impossible to get into, or left it too late and stuff, and might think, yeah, I'm going to give my local team a call or drop them an email. So hopefully some good comes of it.
Yeah, well, I say certainly four people I can think of.
That's quite a nice way to wrap it up, I think. Paul, thank you so much for coming on.
Just briefly, Ross, sorry. I've got one message from a listener that I thought I'd read out.
Far away.
Yeah, I just thought before we close it off. So it's from Mike Kelly. We've obviously had a few questions from in the past, and it's directed at Paul. He's basically said, if you could choose to be part of any NFL coaching staff for 1 year, which team would it be and why? And I feel like we should exclude the 49ers from that.
Oh, no, I can't. Okay, I'll give another answer anyway. But the reason for the 49ers, and it is coincidence for the 49ers, because the way the offense runs and the cleverness of it, it's not just about throwing. It's not, the intricacies of the running game and having everybody like George Kittle and Carl Juszczyk blocking and enjoying blocking, because people think, I've just got to block in this game. It's great. You look at George Kittle, he has a smile on his face when he's pancaking people in the end zone, to get people just to enjoy getting it. I think it's just a great scheme the way he does it. I've gone all the way and not mentioning him, so it certainly wouldn't be. It might be the Arizona Cardinals, actually, because I'd like to ditch Kyler Murray.
Oh, Josh!
Oh,
the MVP. Oh, my God. Is this
Josh had him pinned for MVP.
And I tell you for why. It's not necessarily because I don't like Kyler Murray. It's because I'd want to change the mindset, in the fact that if you base your whole franchise around one player, great athlete though he is, he can run, he's difficult to tackle, and I do hate him because he's in the 49ers division, obviously. But if he goes down, what are they going to replace him with? They've got 53 players on the roster, and they're relying on one player. Are you telling me that they've got somebody that can do just the same thing? So they've got to change the whole scheme if he goes down. And he might win a Super Bowl. They might get a ring, but he's not going to be a franchise when they build a dynasty. Like, whether you like it or not, Tom Brady, is with Belichick, he's gone to one other team. He's a traditional quarterback. You could in theory replace him with anybody. Much as I'm, if you want to go down the Kyler Murray route, I appreciate the Baltimore Ravens for what they've done with Lamar Jackson. What they did was, if Lamar Jackson got injured, okay, he's not that great, but they put RG3 in as backup because he's a similar kind of quarterback. So that makes sense. You're not having to change your whole team system. So yeah, I'd probably go with Arizona Cardinals just to get rid of Kyler Murray.
Good answer. Brilliant. Yeah, sorry, Ross.
Lovely stuff. No worries.
Apologies for that. No wonder you wanted to wrap it up quickly.
Josh is going to cry himself to sleep tonight.
I'm glad you've upset Josh. That's brilliant.
I hope I haven't bored anyone too much. So,
no, it's always been great.
Absolutely not. Paul, thanks for coming on. If people want to learn more about the Steelers, where's the best place for them to get involved and learn a bit more about the club?
I think if you social media, you can't go too wrong if you search for Sandwell Steelers and go on Facebook group. We've got recruitment groups, and not just one thing to mention, actually, not just the adult team, which, fun enough, is an adult team. If you're 18 or over, male or female, you can get involved in that team. It's not a male league; it's an adult league. There's a separate women's league as well. So if you want to get involved, in that, there's a youth team. So there's so many different levels that we didn't touch on. You can play, and Steelers got all of those different groups. So under 18s as well can get involved. But if you search Sandwell Steelers Facebook, so we've got the recruitment group there. There's, again, with Instagram and Twitter, if you search, you can't fail to find us. So, as you say, we practice at the sports academy. Sorry, I've got my words. We practice now. I got the because I haven't actually been there yet. Believe it or not. and I got the address off my operations director earlier this evening, just to make sure I got the right information. But yeah, sorry, the training is at the RSA Academy on Bilston Road, and obviously the home games are at Tipton Sports Academy if you want to come and watch. Training tends to be on a Sunday and a Wednesday evening, so Sunday morning and Wednesday evening. It's good to have 2 sessions a week, because some people work at weekends. So I've just lost you temporarily. So I'm just trying to get you back. There we go.
I'll get my highlight reel together. I've got one clip at the moment in my phone, throwing it from about 10 yards, but it's good. It didn't slow-mo, so, or is it? Either way, I'll get it over. You'll see what the potential is there.
We'll definitely be down to watch a game at very least.
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely.
I think we've already had to. I think we've got to make the commitment that, as well as a game, we're going to have to go down and Jay's going to have to put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, when are the trials? I'll get myself in shape. I'll get jogging. Such.
I'm bang up for that. Put us through some drills.
It'll be good content.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good to say from your point of view as well, just so that you can say this is what it's like, because and I use Jay's example again because he wants to be quarterback. Have you ever thrown the ball wearing pads and helmet?
I have no doubt that I could, but I have thrown it shirtless though, which is on my clip. Bizarrely enough,
I don't think anyone wants to see that. You can follow Sandwell Steelers. The Twitter handle is @Sandwell Steeler, and probably also look at the website sandwellsteelers.com, as well as searching for you guys on Facebook as well. Paul's a good place to go. But yeah, just for anyone who's interested and wants to look them up. And again, yeah, you guys have got youth, women's teams, adults teams, all sorts. So if anyone who follows us is local wants to get involved, Sandwell's sounds like a great bet to be going. But obviously there probably are also, if you're in Scotland or wherever listening to this podcast, there are probably teams local to you. So get on Google if you're interested in getting involved.
Other teams are available, I suppose. It's the official.
Yeah, or if you I say Paul, if someone wanted to travel from Scotland to training and play for you, if they're there on time, I'm sure you'd have them as well, would you?
If they want to, absolutely. Yeah, I'm travelling from Hereford up to Sandwell every twice a week to do it. So
there you go. So if you're in John O'Groats, you've got no excuse. Get down and let Paul put you through his paces.
No, if you want to be part of the best team in the country, then
there we go.
There you go.
Only one team.
Lovely stuff. Thanks for coming on, Paul.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate it. No, it's really good, and I really like what when I spoke to Dan on the phone, just the kind of the content but I probably made it a bit more serious than you normally are, to be fair. So apologies for that. But it's good. It's nice to have a different kind of outlet rather than just perhaps for want of better, like stuffy radio interviews when you get asked the very same questions all the time. So it's been some. So it's good to that, and just the general kind of fun of it. It's just a different angle, and it's really good. So I think we continue following. I certainly be listening to you more anyway as well. So
thank you.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
To hear it.
It'd be great, yeah. If once things are about to back to normality, yet I think it would be fun for us to come down and watch you guys and see Jay get smashed by some massive men.
I've got a couple of linebackers in mind that would like to have a go at Jay.
I'm very evasive in the pocket. It's not a problem.
Fantastic.
Well, I've got some pocket drills for you to do when you come to practice, so that's fine.
Paul, thank you so much for coming on.
Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You.
Thank you.
Pleasure.